Hey, howdy, hey, folks. Was reading an article the other day, and they were ranking Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere books, and I totally disagreed with their ranking. And so I thought, well, why don't I just rank all of Brandon Sanderson's books, period, and see where they land. Now, uh, of course, my opinion is going to be a little different than yours, but I just love to see how does my list stack up to yours. Where are the differences? Let me know down in the comments. So let's get to it. Okay, so uh, start off just a couple of the ones that I haven't read. So I haven't read a lot of the non-Cosmere shorts. So Firstborn, Perfect State, Dreamer, Snapshot, the Infinity Blade books, and Defending Elysium are books of his that I haven't read. So they're not going to be included in this ranking. I also haven't read his graphic novels, White Sand and Dark One, and then I won't be including the Wheel of Time books in this ranking. I still consider those Robert Jordan's, even though there are certainly those that consider the last few books of the Wheel of Time to be some of the best of Brandon's work. I also won't be including Dragonsteel Prime or Way of Kings Prime. I haven't read those. I kind of like the stories in their essence and didn't want to have some type of influence on my perception of those stories. Finally, Arcanum Unbounded is going to be separated into its separate short stories. And so I won't be including Arcanum Unbounded as a complete work. Mild spoiler alerts, trying not to give out too much away in this particular video, but I would say that there are maybe slightly mild spoilers, but not heavy spoilers at all. Okay, so let's go. Okay, there's probably only one element of Brandon's writing that I would say that I actually don't like at all. So it is obviously the very end of the list at number 45 of all the books that I've read. So the very end of the list, number 45, is anything to do with Allomancer Jack. I understand that it's supposed to be a parody of his own work within his work. But it just doesn't land for me, and it just annoys me. And I think part of the problem was that a lot of the Brandon Sanderson that I read that I have time for comes through audio, and so just trying to describe those newspaper pages via audio and having Allomancer Jack be that way is just really frustrating. Number 44, Hope of Elantris. So fine little story. It just doesn't get the gears moving for me. It's just kind of the extra bonus chapter type stuff that he gets to put into Arcanum Unbounded. And it's really short, so just not super important. Number 43, The 11th Metal. Kelsier and that other Mistborn guy finding out about the 11th Metal and how important that's going to be in the Mistborn series. Again, just kind of bonus material, background. It doesn't really stand on its own. Okay, here's where I'm going to probably make my first enemies here. So 43, 42, and 41, we have the Evil Librarians, book 5, 4, and 3, right? So the Dark Talent, the Shattered Lens, and the Knights of Crystallia. Now, granted, Knights of Crystallia has an awesome, it's just totally classic Brandon Sanderson moment with the marriage, and that is a really, really, really fun way of solving a problem. The reason that I don't like much of the Evil Librarian series is just kind of the sheen of the clever humor at the beginning of each chapter is kind of worn off for me. It was really fresh and new and fun in the first one, but it just kind of a mismatch of themes and humor and actual occurrences. It just doesn't mesh well for me. There's some things that are just so basic, and then things that are really complex. So Evil Librarian fans, come at me in the comment. Okay, so our less low tier, jumping into it, mostly short stories, because his novels are awesome. In this less low tier of things that I really enjoyed that just simply aren't the best of his work, starts with a lot of the Side-O-Verse shorts. So at 39, I have Evershore. For me, having Jorgen, and again, I listened to it on audio, and having him narrated by a woman just didn't fit very well for me, and it kind of seemed like an obvious emotional resolution for him from the very beginning, and it's just like, we just have to wait for him to get over yourself because grief takes time. Number 38, Children of the Nameless. Kind of a fun little story that he wrote for Wizards of the Coast. And it's kind of fun. Has a little kind of a grumpy sunshine little kid wizard. It's a really fun little story and different magic system, and it's great. 37, White Sand. So this story is really, really fun. I actually really like the short story of White Sand. It certainly could be fleshed out more, which I think happens in his graphic novels, even though that's kind of funny that how can it be more fleshed out in a graphic novel. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of how I write. It's still a little simplistic. I hope that means that someday I could improve and be better. And in fact, maybe I'm putting my own works up a little too high for them to be quite like White Sand. But I hope that someday that my works, and that you guys could let me know, maybe if I put them on YouTube in the future, let me know in the comments if that was something that you would like. If I could put some of my own works on there and you guys would be interested in listening to them. Number 36. And I realized I made a mistake in my listing and my numberings. So 36 is actually going to be 3 books. And that's Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. And that's 1, 2, and 6. It's a little better than the other ones. Number 1 obviously is probably the best and the lowest on that list, just because the sheen is new, and Alcatraz is funny, especially for a writer. And I think that's what's the funniest thing, is most of his jokes are about writing in general. Okay, 35, I have Redawn and Sunreach. Redawn was really fun, kind of the juxtaposition between a party being called Unity and not actually striving for unity, and how labels can be deceiving, right? Sunreach, also FM, the little romances going on there. It's just kind of fun. Okay, number 34, Legion. The character JC is just funny and allows Brandon to say jokes that he wouldn't otherwise. Legion's just interesting and fascinating way, kind of the Sherlock Holmes spinoff with total Brandon Sanderson flavor. And kind of, I feel like almost a practice run for him to be able to write Shalon correctly. 33 is a little short Mitosis for the Reckoners series. Basically just a bunch of unused material that had to get shortened and not able to be used in Firefight, but still really fun. Okay, so I think that my lowest Cosmere novel, coming in at 32, is The Bands of Mourning. The ending of it just felt so anticlimactic to me. Bands of Mourning, they're all powerful. They're done and used up by the end of the scene, right? And then Wayne and Milan, some weird stuff. Number 31, Lux. So just a little juxtaposition of the juvenileness of like kid spies, but then really, really heavy themes. So really good, but a little long as that juxtaposition wore on. Number 30, Cytonic. So good, but Brandon Sanderson is kind of known for his controlled magic systems, very much with rules, and then going into the nowhere just felt like a little bit like a free fall of what did I just read, and then the big emotional moment at the end didn't quite hit me. Sunlit Man, on the other hand, had a very similar emotional moment climax, and that one hit me much, much better. Number 29. Frugal Wizard's Handbook to Surviving Medieval England. It was a little too much of a whirlwind for me, not knowing, am I this? Oh, I'm this. No, I'm not. Am I that? No, I'm not. But the I defy you, Thoden moment was awesome. This felt very much the rewards and the payouts that I love about Brandon Sanderson. And the guy with the gun arm moment is also really fun. Okay, kind of the middle tier stories that Brandon Sanderson has written. Number 28, The Shadows of Silence from the Forests of Hell. I just love, and he's talked about, I think it's in the prelude to it, or the pre-storyness, about how he had a single mother, right? And how Silence is able to provide and be really, really cool in a way that's not like violent warrior hero. So I really liked that story. Similarly, number 27, Sixth of the Dusk. It's one of my wife's absolute favorites. It's probably in her top 10, at least top 20. And it's her favorite short for sure. The Six of the Dusk, kind of that creepy, see dead people, but it's all got a purpose and a reason. So that's really, really nice. Number 26, Dawn Shard. Again, very good. It's just short. Does Dawn Shard actually stand on its own? I think so. But not quite sure. And then, of course, the relationship between the betrayal and Nod and coming back. Anywho, I really enjoy it. Number 25, Defiant. Conclusion of the Cytoverse. Good. 24, Starsight. It gets a little bit broader. I like Skyward better because the world just gets a little too big too quickly for me with Starsight. 23, Calamity. Has a very similar ending to what Starsight does, but I like how Calamity does it a little bit better, of helping them emotionally understand human beings. An overly powerful race, right? And the climax and resolution for Calamity of the Reckoner series is fantastic. And the joke of Cody and the Irish terrorists is one of my favorite moments in the entire series. How'd y'all know about that? But it took the whole book to get there for me. And basically, I just like a lot of other things better. The fact that Calamity is this low on the list is a testament to how many other things do really well. Okay, number 22 of my favorite of Brandon Sanderson's works is Shadows of Self. All kind of takes place in a 24-hour period, and boy, what a whirlwind. I loved it my first time. Not as much of a reread book for me, which none of the ones behind it are for me either, except for maybe the shorts. But the ones in front of this are ones that I think I'll reread plenty of times. But yeah, Shadows of Self, just not as much of the reread value for me, but quite the whirlwind the first time through. Number 21, Firefight. Again, really, really fun. David's metaphors, am I right? So just really good building on the world of the first Steelheart. Number 20, The Lost Metal. You're no longer that man, Wayne. Right? The transformation story there, the conclusion of Era 2. I think there's some things that it missed a little bit for me, but overall, just a really fun, enjoyable story. Number 19, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. A little slow burn, but really fun, enjoyable ride. More of that pure romance with Sanderson fantasy as a backdrop. Okay, now we're starting to get to the upper echelons, right? Number 18. Might make a few more enemies here. Well of Ascension. It's still Mistborn. It's still amazing, but it's at 18 for me just because it's a lot of this, am I Vin the street rat, or am I Vin the lady? Am I Elend the scholar, or Elend the king? It's like way too much of this either or fallacy that they're both dealing with, but of course they're dealing with it together, I guess. But the twist of it all at the well itself, and I stinking love Sazed. So Well of Ascension is still awesome. Okay, number 17, Skyward. Fun, really straightforward YA story with just the right amount of discovery, right? I criticize Starsight for kind of getting too big too quick. Like, Skyward is very narrow in its scope and still just mystery and fun, and I just love it. Number 16, Warbreaker. I love Lightsong. And his journey, his sacrifice, love it. There are criticisms to this book, but that wasn't my experience. The betrayals hit me hard, and I totally called the Kalad's Phantoms in this book, but that made me feel smart and excited rather than disappointed that it was too obvious or whatever. Number 15, Sunlit Man. What a ride. So fun, and it makes me super excited for the future Cosmere. Number 14, Steelheart. Literally David taking down Goliath, right? The pressure amped up perfectly for me, and the explanations of the powers in David's obsession with epics makes total sense. Okay, number 13, Edge Dancer. Probably, I think it's my highest short, maybe. I just love the way that Lift saved the day without lifting a finger, and seeing more of her heroism. And I understand that her humor can grate on some, but not me. She still makes me laugh. Not my favorite character in the Stormlight Archive by far, but a really enjoyable novella to me. Number 12, Elantris. So fun, and I'll never forget how I felt when I was reading when Serene and Raoden were having their little fencing match, and Serene has no idea that she's fighting Raoden, and she wounds him, right? And it's like, that's pretty grave consequences for an Elantrian at this point. And Hrathen, to me, is such a fascinating character. And this book just totally gives us a glimpse of the great author that Brandon Sanderson would become. So number 11, Mistborn, or The Final Empire. Right, it's the start of a great series that made him famous. Kelsier was boss, and coming to a pretty crazy climax. And that moment between Sazed and Marsh at Credit Shaw is one of my absolute favorites, of explaining and understanding a magic, but then using it in a unique way there at the end, that moment with Marsh and Sazed. And it's a moment that I hope to be able to recreate some moments like that in my writing, where a magic system is used in a creative way that the audience hadn't thought of before, or the reader hadn't thought of before. And hopefully I'm able to accomplish that in some of the writing that I hope to do. Number 10, Alloy of Law. I thought it was a perfect start to Era 2. Again, a little bit narrower in scope, which I liked, being able to be focused on our goal and having mystery, and that Wax and Wayne dynamic was so fun. What are you up to, Wayne? 145 with diet and exercise. And the Michael Kramer Cockney accent worked way better for Wayne than it did Lopen, because Lopen was like Latino, right? Anywho. And so, yeah, perfect start to Era 2. Number 9, Rhythm of War. This is my lowest Stormlight Archive book. Still fabulous. What a awesome thing for Kaladin. Like, what more would he want than that armor, right? For others. Yeah. Terravodium. Number 8, Mistborn Secret History. Okay, so I love Kelsier, so I'm going to love being able to see a little bit more of that backstory of what's going on during the Mistborn series. And the interaction with Wit is so funny. Like, how about you, Spanky? Right? So fun. Number 7, Hero of Ages. So this is about as perfect as an ending as it gets, right? I mean, of the surprising but inevitable variety, that's what you want, right? If an ending is too surprising, then it doesn't feel validated or foreshadowed. If it's too inevitable, it's like, well, then why didn't it happen sooner? And you're just kind of waiting for it to happen. The Hero of Ages is about as perfect as it gets. Like, Sazed is amazing, and less Vin and Elend. Marsh gets his heroic moment. We have more Spook, more Breeze. It's just so good. So good. Number 6, Emperor's Soul. This is actually where I tell people to start with Brandon Sanderson. Kind of a self-contained story, really, really short. If they don't like it, they've only spent one afternoon reading it or so. But yet the world building is so rich, and the deeper questions of the philosophizing of how do my choices impact my soul, and how do those impact the greater world. Emperor's Soul is so good. Number 5, The Arithmetist. Now, I understand it's kind of middle grade, earlier reader type story, but I love it. It hit all the right beats for me, and it inspired me to write my novel, The Haberdasher. It was literally at my wife's grandmother's house. We're quilting, and as we're going through it, this quilting magic comes into my head. And so, let me know down in the comments if you would love to later have me post some of my stories, and maybe The Haberdasher with quilting magic on the channel, so you could listen to it. Number 4, Tress of the Emerald Sea. So definitely my favorite of the secret projects. Absolutely delightful. I loved it. After confronting the sorceress and getting what she's been trying to get the whole time, she gets it back finally, and I felt super disappointed. And then, whoop, then comes the twist from the book's twist, and absolutely loved my experience of reading Tress. Number 3, The Way of Kings. The Battle at the Tower. Journey before destination. Kaladin going back to protect those, even if he doesn't like them, right? This book is amazing. The Way of Kings is the way to go. Number 2, Words of Radiance. Boots, the chasms, Honor is dead, and Kaladin jumping in to save Renarin and Adolin. It is a perfect adventure. Number 1 of Brandon Sanderson's works as of October 2024, number 1 is Oathbringer. It's the culmination of Dalinar's journey and redemption, the triumph of good over evil mattering most within a person, so that changes the world. You cannot have my pain, all this intermixed with global universe warfare and growing stakes. Oh my gosh, it's a story about choice and accountability, but you can't just let those evil choices don't just go away. They have consequences, and Dalinar has consequences because of those things. It's the perfect redemption arc. Yeah, I'm coming for you, Zuko.
That's rough, buddy.
It's the perfect redemption arc, and a perfect story of a world and a people. We as humans reading this need redemption, and so it's absolutely beautiful. Okay, so there's my list. There's my 49, 45 stories of Brandon Sanderson's that I've read and ranked in order of my enjoyment. Was I super off from you? What do you guys think? Do you have something in your top 10 that wasn't even in my top 10 at all? Or do you have something that's in my top 10 that you have way, way lower that you've ranked? Or maybe this could inspire you to read a few of those last stories that you haven't read of his yet, if there's some really good ones out there that you haven't read. I mean, obviously they're all really good, except for Alan Jack. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.